Hello, welcome back to this week of Tesla Myth Busts. I'm your host, Tesla Myth Buster. This week, we're gonna talk about three myths again. And first one is whether or not Warren Buffett will invest in Tesla and whether or not that makes sense or not. The second one is about Tesla being under investigation, whether or not they're in trouble. Multiple agencies are looking into Tesla, namely NHTSA, DOJ, and SEC. And the third myth is whether or not the Chinese cars are being so competitive that it will basically kill Tesla as soon as they reach across to other countries. Now, before we officially start, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. It will really help me make more useful content for you in the future. This is not financial or investment advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. Thank you. Now, without further ado, let's go to the first myth. Whether or not Warren Buffett will invest in Tesla. Now, we all know that Warren Buffett has invested in BYD before in China many years ago. And recently they have sold off quite a bit of it already. 60% to be precise, and still leave 40% left. So needless to say, Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway has made a killing in investing in BYD as they recently gained popularity and basically mainstream and basically the top dog in China, even taking over Tesla in terms of number of sales for one quarter. But this quarter Tesla has regained that title, obviously. But why would Warren Buffett invest in BYD but not Tesla? Is mostly because there's a lot of visibility for them into BYD's operations. And just traditionally, they are more into companies that have more stability, and maybe they have connections that knows that BYD's plan of execution, and maybe they're slightly less flashy, less volatile. Unlike Tesla, which is like extremely volatile, very bipolar. The fans on opposite ends are extremely passionate. They basically bash each other all day long, all year long. And the stock will reflect that sentiment very accurately. Moving up and down on any given day, anywhere from 10 to 15% is no longer a surprise to anybody. Even though on most days it's less than 5%, but it's definitely a stock that's not for everybody. It's extremely volatile, and that's never been good for Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio. They want something so stable that is like just like looking at Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger talk in their meetings. It's just very, very monotonic, right? So Tesla is just doesn't fit that profile of stocks that they want. Also, Warren Buffett and Elon Musk actually on social media and maybe news indirectly have confronted each other's philosophy of things. Elon has said before that managing a portfolio of stocks for other wealthy individuals is extremely boring and basically just unfulfilling. I mean, it's a very important job and Warren's done a great job at it, but it doesn't actually do much, is basically what he was saying in the tweets or somewhere on the news media to him indirectly. And on the other hand, Warren Buffett has also expressed that Elon sometimes can be overly aggressive in industries that have big moats or unique advantages around incumbents, meaning there's a high entry to barrier for newcomers. And Warren Buffett has given the example of the candy business, which is quite saturated with many competitors already and has captured many households' hearts, and they know where to go, what kind of candy they want. And that market is basically saturated. It's very hard for a newcomer to come in and grab a share. And Elon was making fun of the moat, like saying the concept of moat, like the river surrounding a castle, is a very old concept. Indirectly indicating that Warren Buffett's philosophy is very old, doesn't really apply to modern era. So the two are never really quite appreciative of each other, to say the least. While they still appreciate each other, but they don't really get inspired by each other. Let's just put it that way. So it's very unlikely Warren Buffett will invest in Tesla. But that said, if there's like a smallest chance that happens, you can bet anything that it will make Tesla jump easily 20%, because Warren Buffett is the god of stock, right? But that's unlikely to happen. So let's say we bust this myth that Warren Buffett will not invest in Tesla. Now, the second myth is whether or not Tesla is done, because Tesla is under investigation by NHTSA and DOJ and SEC. Seems like the government is basically firing on all cylinders, pun intended, to try to slow down Tesla or just kill it or give it trouble. Now, let's do it one by one. Let's go to NHTSA first, right? What is their story? What are they looking at? So about a year or two ago, NHTSA has asked Tesla to recall all of its existing cars that have been sold in the United States ever. So there were about 2 million cars affected, at least for Model 3 and Model Y. Maybe, I don't know, for Model S or X. Those are not very big numbers, even if they are included. But mostly for Model 3 and Model Y, about 2 million cars needed a so-called recall, right? So for Tesla, a lot, like 99% of the recalls are just software updates. They can just push a new version and fix that problem, and this is the case here as well. And that change was to require Tesla to nudge the user to, whenever possible, force the user to pay attention on the road while using its software like autopilot or full self-driving beta, and to make sure that the drivers are safe. And Tesla has complied to its request, and since then all the FSD and autopilot drivers has been constantly nudged by the software to keep its hands on the wheel, slightly move the wheel a little bit to make sure you're there. So all of that is done, and quite annoying. So recently NHTSA is basically asking for more data to show that this has been done, first of all, properly, and that it has done enough to prevent crashes. So it actually looks into actual crashes while autopilot or FSD was engaged, to make sure that Tesla did as requested, that it didn't skim on anything. So this is, first of all, NHTSA's prerogative. And then we have DOJ and SEC kind of together looking into so-called Tesla securities and wire fraud, basically saying, did Tesla promise something they know that will never be achieved, like flat out basically overpromise on unrealistic goals, kind of like Theranos before, or did Tesla say the car can do something that it definitely could not possibly do, which is basically the same thing, right? And another way of looking at it is, did Tesla knowingly mislead investors and drivers and buyers alike? Are the disclaimers and warnings not sufficient? So this is a quite in-depth investigation, and you can bet that this is not going to be easy to get them away, but you can also bet on that Tesla has done everything they can to make everything on the up and up. All these warnings and disclaimers are always being displayed to the user. I'm a driver and owner of the car myself. It's gotten to a point that's pretty annoying, really. And it doesn't come like every 5 seconds or every 1 minute. It really comes like at random situations. And especially if you're not looking out the window in front of you, it will know that you're distracted and force you to touch the wheels. So is this going to be a problem? Is this going to make Tesla in big trouble? Only if Tesla didn't keep a very clear record of all the things they've done to comply with these requests. So I would say that 99% certainty that Tesla will be okay here. At the worst, there's some gray area up for interpretation, and they could be fined a moderate amount, which is fine. And we know for a fact, from a hard and a logical perspective, that Tesla has done everything on the up and up. So this myth should be busted that they are in big trouble. They should not be. The third myth is about Chinese cars being too competitive and will kill Tesla basically very soon, if not already. Now, one thing you need to understand about Chinese cars is that like a lot of Western countries, especially Europe and USA, are not very fond of having trades with China because of China's many sensitive policies that affect the West. And for the most part, for the similar reasons that a lot of countries are banning TikTok, they are also making sure the cars from China are not imported by having either huge tariffs or just right out just not allowing it because of the fear of losing national security. Because they're really worried about their cars being just a bunch of machines that's going to record and not just voice but also video and everything that we're doing, and it will cause a national security concern. As a lot of countries have the impression that China tends to do that, so they're very unlikely to let Chinese products that's gonna be on every corner of the street allowed to be sold in that country. And so you might ask, how many countries are there like that basically do not politically align with China? There is actually a lot. So what you're saying is that how many countries are more aligned with United States than China? Now, if you look at the map, USA has a really huge ally in the Europe with NATO and many countries like Brazil, Japan. It covers a lot of countries, and China is only allied with other countries like Russia, North Korea, like a very small amount, maybe not North Korea, but a couple of Southeast Asian countries, couple of Middle East countries. They overall are small countries, and not a lot of countries are aligned with China and allow its import of cars. So I think it would be safe to say that even if BYD is hugely successful outside of China, it will be very limited to only a few small countries and won't really affect Tesla much, which is actually expanding to all of Europe and very soon India and South America, if not already, and obviously Australia. So United States is the biggest market for Tesla, and Tesla is expanding to many other countries that China cannot. So let's just say this myth is also busted because China just doesn't have enough big country allies to export their cars to. So not too much to worry about. And that sums up our free myths for this episode. And thanks for tuning in. Please again subscribe if you like how I bust these myths with multiple angles of looking at it. And it would really help me in going forward, making more useful content. Thank you very much.